Welcome back, Troglodytes, to another episode of Trogly's Guitars. Today we have a Fusion Les Paul, the fusion of a Les Paul and a 335. So basically you get a really lightweight Les Paul standard with F-holes that sounds like a banjo. So these things are kind of either you love them or you hate them type thing. I will say, picking one up and playing it, it really does kind of feel like a toy, but they are surprisingly well played guitars. And they sound really good too. Now, I personally prefer these Sunburst ones because they do have amazing flame tops on them. There's also one called Cobra Burst that I think looks really cool. But, you know, if you don't like a Les Paul because of its really heavy weight, you're not really too into like chambered Les Pauls, but you kind of like 335 semi-hollow sounds, this is kind of like a perfect blend from the Memphis shop of Gibson. So let's go ahead and take a look at this guitar. The headstock's in good shape. You can see you've got some light string wear and just average wear and tear, as well as some dust. But something to note is there's like a very visible line around the Gibson logo. It's kind of annoying, but I've had 3 of these and I've seen many photos, and there's a lot of thread topics about that. For whatever reason, these just never look so good on the headstock. But because of a few, factory defects that most of these all have, these really don't, command a lot on the used market. So they are a very good value for a Les Paul standard that's a little bit different. We have a rosewood fretboard, and this is a 2014, so it's stock, no nibs. In 2014, they decided to do away with the nibs. I believe they brought them back, though. What that means for you is somebody might try to tell you, oh, this guitar has been refretted, but you'll have to tell them, no, it hasn't. That's how it came from the factory for this year. But it does give you a little bit of more fret room when you're bending on the top E. Sometimes your strings will get caught in between the nib binding and the fret. It'll just be a gap. So at least you don't have to worry about that. But the top on this is beautiful. I really do like these guitars. What I usually find when I sit down with a guitar, like back in the old days when I just had my old little collection, I wouldn't really plug in that often. So that's why I kind of like these ES Les Pauls, because they're a little bit more acoustically resonant, obviously because they're a little bit closer to an acoustic guitar than a solid body Les Paul. But they're a little bit more louder and just a little bit more, enjoyable to play. However, since you don't have that heavy weight of a Les Paul, they don't really feel like a real Les Paul. As I said before, they kind of feel like toys, but they are good guitars, don't get me wrong. You can see here, this guitar is in pretty good shape. No major nicks or dings. It's only about 3 or 4 years old now. You have your stock MHS humbuckers, which is just kind of the Memphis humbuckers that they use in pretty well all of these. But you do have a stock ABR1 bridge. So if you want a Les Paul that's a little bit different, but you want that historically correct ABR1 bridge, these ES LPs are actually a pretty good value for that. And your typical stop bar there. You've got your pointers on the knobs. That's also similar to vintage spec. And you can see that the knobs have cracked a little bit, but I mean, they stay on just fine. You can't yank them off, but there is a little bit of cracking to them when they were installed. But overall, the top's in good shape. This guitar is all original. Just very minor things wrong. But here's where these get really different. The top, Sunburst Les Paul. The back, you're to the 70s with a walnut ES 335. Now, I personally dig this back looking the way it does, because it definitely reminds me of the 70s era Gibsons, which I really do like. And some of the 335s from the early 70s do look very cool. Back of the headstock, serial number 115347, I think it says 13, made in USA, 2014.
A little bit hard to see, but there you can see it a little better. A little bit of dust. But no breaks, cracks, or repairs. Beautiful, like dark walnut-like color on this guitar. Now the neck profile, I would say, I would classify it as kind of a medium 60s. It's a little bit rounded. This might be what they consider a rounded 59 profile. It's not super thin, but it's not huge either, so it's very comfortable to play. As you can see, no major nicks or dings on the neck, just some, fingerprints and whatnot. I mean, most of what's wrong with this guitar just came from the factory, like you got some, a line there is forming from where the Holley veneer was put on. It kind of finish checked. I know it might look like a finish split like from the nut, but it is just from the Holley veneer. You kind of have that checking line on both areas, but once again, nothing to worry about there. Take a look at the back itself. I mean, this guitar wasn't played a lot, as you can see. No major worming marks. You've got a slightly active back. It's got some figuring to it, but not a whole lot. But what I really like is the wood grain. I really enjoy that. Everything is stock on this guitar. No major nicks or dings, as mentioned before. Sometimes you gotta watch on these ES Les Pauls. They get a line of separation right here. Luckily this one doesn't have that, so this one is good to go. Now the tops to these ES Les Pauls, they're not quite as curved as a normal Les Paul. You can see it does have some top carve to it, but where they really differ from a regular Les Paul is right here, how the neck kind of sticks up right there. You don't see that on a traditional Les Paul because usually the top, curves up and is thicker there. When we talk lightweight, we're talking under 6 pounds here. 5 pounds, 14.6 ounces is what this one weighs. This one does come in its original Gibson Memphis case. These are pretty good Les Paul cases. They're very similar to the 90s Brown cases. It does say there's a certificate of authenticity inside, but unfortunately, the original owner lost it. I don't know how that happens. Personally, I don't think these guitars should even have those. They're not that expensive to begin with. I think that should be reserved for custom shop stuff. But you've got this grayish black, kind of even a dark blue, you could almost say, interior. You've got extra heel support, and you've got your original silica packet at least. But it's a good case. It houses the guitar very well. It's good for gigging. We're demoing today through a Gibson GA30 Super Gold Tone for the P1C for the distorter. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of the Sunburst Les Paul ES Fusion, feel free to contact me on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Troglys, TROGOYS, or check out the Reverb or eBay listings. Alright, Troglodytes, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.